hand still very strong. A great bluffing candidate.
1.3.
1.3 million. Yeah, the call of the series, and now he might have the bluff of the series.
Welcome to the studio, bro.
It's more of a sport than chess. Things are more situational, and execution is actually really difficult and an important part of the game, where like there are definitely some people out there who are just like clutch performers and other people who aren't.
Foxen digging in with just bottom pair here.
Now 7 million.
Oh boy. Boy, he looks like he's got it measured out here, and he doesn't look particularly convinced that Vieira has him. Ace-X, the sensible
he
value
calls.
range. He makes the call,
Wow.
and he catches Vieira with 10 high.
Oh my God.
It was never money that motivated me, so I didn't really care about like if I lost all my money. As long as I had ways to like play the next tournament, that's all I cared about. I was never like saw myself as a 1K grinder. It was always like a satellite to me. Not even from a financial standpoint. I just like wanted to play. It's like I wanted to battle these people. So like I think that was really helpful in that process of like moving up in stakes, because the gravity of the money was never something that like affected me.
It's going to be 6 outs once. That's all that stands between Foxen and glory. Is there a hurdle? No, there isn't.
Ladies and gentlemen, your 100K main event champion, Alex Foxen.
All right, welcome everybody. The man joining me for today's podcast needs no introduction, but I'm going to do it anyway. Alex Foxen's got over 50 million in career tournament earnings. One of the absolute legends of the game, and someone I'm happy to call my friend. Thanks for joining me, brother.
What's up, man? Happy to be here.
You want to jump right in? Anything you want to say?
I mean, no, I'm happy to be here. I always love doing podcasts like this. I don't do it very often, honestly, because I do think that there's an element of poker where sharing your thought process on even anything gives you a little bit of information to some of the sharper observers. So it's one of those things that maybe feels a little bit minus EV to do, but it is. I really do enjoy the conversation, and it's a lot of fun. So I'm happy to be here.
Well, I feel even luckier that you do content with me at Chip Leader. All right, well, let's jump in. Tell me your beginnings in poker, your background before you got into poker, all that jazz.
Yeah, so for me, my interest in poker began probably around 2002, 2003, like so many others, around when Moneymaker won. I can remember actually watching Greg Raymer. That's the WSOP main event run that I remember vividly. I can still see the couch I was on and like the background of the room where I watched that. I had so much fun watching that run. I was like 12
after Moneymaker.
I believe so. 2004, I think. Yeah. So it was like Moneymaker increased the interest, and then it was a pretty iconic run that year after. I mean, like Raymer was an interesting guy. He had those crazy glasses, and
the fossil.
That was the fossil thing. It was one of those things that I didn't really understand the game at the time, but like I just enjoyed the competitive and intensity of it, because my real background and like my real passion for my whole life was always sports. I played just about every sport under the sun.
Are you sure you're
until I was
play sports?
certain okay. Ones. I played all of them as long as I could. I played soccer, hockey, football, lacrosse, basketball. Those were all the ones I played like in organized leagues, and I kept playing all of them until I kind of had to pick when I was in high school, and you started to have seasons that overlapped. So my three sports were hockey, football, and lacrosse. I dropped baseball, I dropped basketball, and I dropped soccer for those. And hockey and football were my two favorites, and the two that I really heavily considered pursuing after high school. It was kind of just like always my dream to play a sport professionally. That was what I was after. I remember when I was a kid sleeping with my hockey stick during hockey season. Like I was just always a very obsessive person. I got in the hockey mode, and I just love that sport more than anything. And I would actually say that's the closest thing to a regret that I have in life. And I don't like having regrets. I don't feel like I do have regrets, but not playing hockey after high school, or not pursuing hockey after high school, and instead going after football, is like the closest thing to that.
I knew that like when you got grounded, you had to have like locked in the room with the dictionary. Were you able to sleep with the hockey stick while grounded?
Yeah, actually, that's like, I think that's part of the where the obsession came from, honestly, and it kind of segues well into poker because I had this. My parents, I was a little bit of a troublemaker as a kid. Nothing terrible, but I talked back to the teachers, didn't listen to what my parents told me to do, type of
I
thing.
could see
Just a
that
little
from what I know
Dennis the
about you.
Menace type. I remember my third grade teacher called my parents in once and told them that I was going to end up in prison. And this is like, I was, I don't know how old you are in third grade. I guess you're like 9,
Yeah,
10, something
eight,
like
eight, I
that.
think.
Something in that neighborhood. So I remember my mom was pretty upset about that. Not at her for saying it, not at me. But it's interesting. Like, I think a lot of the qualities that would lead her to saying something like that are also qualities that helped me to be successful in things that I went after, because I had a low regard for other people's opinion. I had a low level of concern for like what something might look like or what it might appear like to others. And I was very obsessive and, like determined to do something that I enjoyed. So I found myself grounded a lot as a teenager. And one of the things that I did, and this is coincided really well with like the Moneymaker era, and when I watched Fossil Man, and how I started getting into poker was just kind of dealing these hands face up. I would deal an 8-handed table or a 9-handed table, and I would put every hand face up, and I would play every spot. So I would get to effectively play 9 hands at once, and be like, all right, this guy's going to do this. Well, then if he does that, I'm going to do this. And just kind of and that was really how I first started learning poker. And I think it was a pretty cool introduction to learning the game, because I think it's something that very few people see. And because when you play, obviously you don't see what people fold. You don't see, what they fold in the turn, what they fold. So like getting an understanding of how often people have bad hands was I think something that like that actually really revealed to me at an early stage.
Were you around when Poker Stars would have final table replays like a week later with face up hole cards? Because I used to watch those, which is kind of similar.
Yeah. So I wasn't, but the way this was later on when 2014, like let's fast forward. I played football in college. I got a bunch of concussions, had to stop playing. That kind of ended my sports career. So I needed a competitive outlet, and poker was it, perfect one for me. I really enjoyed the game. My studies in school were in, mostly like I majored in math and finance. And then I was also had like a lot of classes in physics. So like the theoretical aspect of the game, and then like the mathematical aspect of the game, all of these things were like very interesting to me on an intellectual level. And then the competition and the intensity of the game was something that kind of replaced that void that I had from not being able to play sports. So it was kind of the perfect thing for me to just like dive into once that moment came. And one of the ways I like what you're saying is I remember the EPT super high roller final table replays. That was like one of my first, methods of studying. I would play the like Bovada and Carbon Poker online schedule at night, and then wake up and watch EPT replays all day. And just like I was with everything else, I was just like obsessed, and spent many years probably, either playing or consuming poker for, I don't know, 12 to 16 hours a day. It was kind of all I did.
Yes, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And for those of you who don't know, Alex played tight end at Boston College for 3 or 4 years.
3, yeah. I had to stop playing in my third year.
Yeah, so happy for us. We found poker. So this next question, I have a version of this in my head. So and I've told this story many times, but I'm really curious to hear your perspective of how we met and how you got involved in chip leader coaching.
Yeah. So that's first of all, I feel like when we met, or right before we met, I was at a very interesting juncture in my poker career where I always had like a high level of confidence in my ability to like play well and to compete and perform. And I was kind of one of those people where whether or not I was right, I just always believed that I was going to be able to do whatever I like, no matter what it was. Just kind of delusional, instilled with that whatever that I think is actually a very valuable trait. Whether obviously you could take it overboard and it could be very detrimental, but I think it helped me a lot because poker is a weird competition. I was about to say sport.
Do you think it's a sport? I was going to ask that when you were talking about it.
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. I think in a lot of I think there are a lot of things that make it very, very close to a sport. But yeah, I mean, I would say it's a sport. I really do. I think it's a mental sport. And it's I hesitate to say that because I'm not really sure, but it carries so many of the characteristics of things.
I know.
I
feel the exact same way. We're like, yes, but no, but yes.
Yeah.
I do.
Like it's more of a sport than chess, I think, personally, because I think that the aspect of there being so much interpersonality involved, like in chess, there's a lot, obviously you're responding to your opponent's moves, but it's I think a little bit more methodical and repeatable. Whereas in poker, it's like things are more situational and execution is actually really difficult and an important part of the game, where like there are definitely some people out there who are just like clutch performers and other people who aren't. Whereas I don't know, maybe I don't know enough about chess, and that's where the differentiation that I'm making comes from.
In my head, the things that you're saying also apply to chess, but I don't really know the game either. Maybe someone will respond in the comments that's a chess player and be like, "You guys are wrong."
I'm actually very interested to see what people might say in the comments about that, because I definitely am have humility about my knowledge of chess for sure. I believe it or not, I've probably played less than 10 games of chess in my entire life.
Oh, I used to play like a bunch when I was little, but probably haven't played a game in 25 years, or maybe one or two.
It's so interesting to me because I've always loved strategy games. Like I loved board games as a kid. I remember playing Settlers of Catan. Like I'm sure that's something
I bought that in the last 3 years and never opened the box.
Yeah, dude, that game's sick. We got to play sometime because that was a game I remember. I used to play that in college with a group of friends.
I've heard it's amazing.
It's there's a high skill cap, or a fairly high skill cap. When we would play the expansion version, I believe it was called Cities and Knights expansion. It kind of like adds layers of complexity to the game, and I would play with 4 people and I would win like 75% of the time. So you can actually,
you had a 200% ROI in Settlers of Catan.
It was huge. My BB per 100 was really high in that game. But I feel like I got off topic. You were originally asking,
what's your version of the how we met?
Yes. Okay. Back to
you were at a crossroads. You were at a crossroads in your life.
Kind of. I mean, like I just felt like I was improving, and I had I was playing bigger stakes than I ever had. But I was like, I knew that I was missing something, and I knew that like there was some element of the game that I needed to figure out. And because I had so many, and maybe some of this is variance, and I'm sure at least a portion of it is, but I had so many of these runs in tournaments that would, I'd get 16th, I'd get 7th, I'd get, and I didn't have that closer, that like X factor to like know when to put on the gas and, press the brakes as well. And I think a couple of things, it was interesting. Like you saw that firsthand, because I remember this very vividly.
You were close a lot early in our relationship. That's not how we met, though.
But, no. But I was more so going to say that I didn't know when to relent is what you saw, because the first time we sat, I just remembered and this was like you were like, I remember really surprised, and I was like, what, like. I'm just playing like this is just normal. What do you mean?
I was laughing so hard during it. So I'm going to add a little color here.
Yeah.
The first time we met, we played together at a 2,500 at the Venetian, and Alex cold 4-bet folded to a 5-bet action 3 times in 2 orbits. And honestly, I wasn't sure if he had a good hand. And at the time for Chip Leader, we were doing the coaching for profit, and I was still looking for like one more guy. And I was like, the fact that like I knew it wasn't going to work because of like live tells on like 2 of the 3. But I didn't know if you were bluffing or not. I was like, this kid's got it. And you used to be a kid, whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, can we chat on
No.
break? And kind of the rest is history.
Yeah. I definitely remember that very vividly. That was definitely a cool moment because for me, I had some friends in poker, but very, very few. And none of them were like very successful. And you had a fair bit of success at the time. You were like a name that I knew type of thing. So to have someone like you approach me in that context was kind of like, whoa, like I like turned this guy's head, in a way that was like, it was not that I like doubted myself in a way, but it definitely added a layer of confidence to be like, okay, I'm onto something.
We weren't friends yet, Alex.
I didn't say we were friends. I just said that I made you notice me. I didn't say we were friends.
Fair. All right. So tell me a little bit about your rise to the high stakes scene. Now you play, I've seen you play 500K buy-ins. We were both lucky enough to play and cash that one last year. Yeah. But you used to grind pretty low stakes. Like, what was the breakthrough moment? Tell me about the rise.
I mean, it was I kind of get the chills anytime I go to talk about this because it feels kind of surreal to me in a lot of sense of like where I am now, but in a lot of ways it felt inevitable. And I don't know how to necessarily explain that, but I can remember one day I was playing probably like $50 buy-ins on ACR in like 2014 or 15 and living at my mom's house. And I remember going upstairs for dinner or whatever it was and just telling her like, I'm going to play the highest stakes and I'm going to crush them. Like I know it. And I told her, and like, it's not like me to say something like that. Like it was very weird. But I just like, I couldn't help but,
that seems
but like
so like you. What are you talking about?
Maybe more so it does right now. But I like to say that to my mom, I guess. Maybe I'd say it to a friend or something, but to say that to my mom was like, that wasn't the person I would say something like that to.
Yeah.
It was a weird moment, and I just felt very compelled to say that. But yeah, I just loved the game so much and loved competing so much that I like the combination of the two things. I was like, once I got to that point where I was like, all right, I'm going to do this full time. I'm going to like commit my life to this. I was like, I just don't have a choice but to do well. Like I couldn't accept anything else. And I was just going to keep trying until I did. And whether that took 18 hours a day or, finding a way to add extra hours into the day. I was just really determined.
Are you bending and manipulating time?
Hopefully I'm trying my best to. I'm not sure. It's hard to quantify whether you are or not, but I like to think that I am. We could get into that conversation.
No, please
too.
don't. We're gonna run out of recording room.
Yeah. No. I can. What do you mean? We'll have plenty of time. No. So like for me, it was this experience of like finding people to have confidence in me and invest in me. And like when I remember when we met, it was kind of like I had a network that helped me play like probably 5Ks and below where, and I was also just like a degen with my bankroll. It was never money that motivated me. So I didn't really care about like if I lost all my money, as long as I had ways to like play the next tournament. Yeah. That's all I cared about. So I remember one time I had 20K and I went and played like a WPT 3,500 with like all of myself and just like, I still have 16.5K left. What's the difference between 20 and 16.5?
Yeah.
And I think that there's something to that, honestly. But yeah. Like actually, when you're 25 years old or whatever, it's like doesn't really matter that much if you go to from 0 to 20 or 0 to 50.
Yeah, I used to
50 to 0.
My bankroll all the time.
Yeah. Whereas now I have a bit of a different mindset. But so yeah, I just was like really wanting to move up in stakes constantly, and I think that's probably one of the things that helped me along the most is like I was never like saw myself as a 1K grinder. It was always like a satellite to me. Is kind of like I'm playing 500s today or I'm playing a 400 today, but like when I win this, then I'm going to be able to play that 5K, and then I'm going to be able to play like that's always what I wanted to run it up.
So stakes.
yeah, and it wasn't not even from a financial standpoint. I just like wanted to play. Like it's like I wanted to battle these people. Yeah. So like I think that was really helpful in that process of like moving up in stakes because the gravity of the money was never something that like affected me. And the tournament that sticks out in my head is the Seminole Hard Rock 2650 that I won in, was it 2016 or 2017?
You won it 2 years in a row.
Yeah, I just can't remember the first year that
Because I had
won it.
50% the first time and a significantly smaller piece the second.
Yes, I remember you had half it. So it must have been 2016 because we met in 2015, I believe it was, and then it was so 2016, like August of 2000. I just remember like so many things about that tournament. First of all, with 27 people left, I had one big blind, and I was like devastated. I made some stupid call against a guy who always had aces, and I had like top pair, and I lost like 100 big blind pot in this button versus small blind where I called a 3-bet that I probably shouldn't have because this guy was so tight, and I knew it at the time, and I just couldn't get myself to fold.
Didn't you have king queen or ace queen or something and it came queen high?
I think I did have king queen and it came queen high, and I just didn't. I just called down like a moron. I felt so stupid at the time too.
I can't remember people's names, but I remember a hand you played 8 years ago.
Yeah, that's actually, I'm amazed that you remember that, because but that's such a transformative moment for me, because like, man, winning that tournament was so not only validating, but just such a crazy experience. And financially, it was like, you know, I probably had sub 50K or sub 30K even. I don't even remember. I might have had even less than that. And I just won, like I won for like 200. Yeah. You got half of it. I got the other half. And I was just like, wow. I remember going up to my room after that and just like crying. And like, I can count on one hand the amount of times I remember crying in my life, and that's one of them.
I now know 2 of them, 3 of them. I know 3 of them.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll keep the other 2 a secret.
Yeah. You got to leave something, you know.
Yeah. I can't reveal them all, but yeah, that was like, I would say that was probably the biggest catalyst for me. That like when that happened, it was just like. You know, some people started to pay attention to me a little bit from like a poker perspective. Like some people already had, I mean, you know, like some people already noticed me, but like that was like a big breakthrough for me.
Yeah. Like having that first major live score, that makes sense. I get it.
It still gives me the chills right now. Like I've just had like chills running through my body for the last 30 seconds, just like thinking of this moment, because it was so powerful. And I just remember right after that, hopping on a plane, going to Barcelona for the EPT, and just losing like a third of my money there. And like had some close calls, whatever. Like it was fun. I was grateful for it, but I was like, man, this can go fast. 100K isn't as much as I thought it was.
When you're
so
just firing.
Yeah. And have no respect for money at all. So that was like, you know, that was, I guess, 2016, and then 2017 comes along, and I had a very good WSOP, or like by very good, I mean like I remember being in the running for player of the year at some point. I had like a bunch of cashes.
I remember a picture you sent me in like the 1500 deuce to 7
no limit
single
deuce
draw. Yeah, where you just had this like mountain of chips.
I kind of want to find it. It was one of the craziest stacks
I
ever
the pod
had.
and we'll have them add it to the video.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I will, because that was like, I had never played the game before. That was just, I'd say that was a pretty good encapsulation of my like approach to the game. I was like, I don't know this game, and this is like represents like 2% of my net worth. Like, all right, let's do it.
I remember,
and just like go in and just play insanely aggressive every hand. Like,
and I remember having like a chip leader coaching get together during the WSOP, and you decided that this is how hard he grinds, by the way, that you'd rather play like a $600 deep stack as your third tournament of the day than come to this.
It was a 200.
I believe
235. It was. I remember.
All right, so before you fast forward in time too much, I'm going to go to the next question. So during your come up, you know, this meteoric rise, you actually had the pleasure of battling with the Germans in like the early solver era. So for those of you watching this who don't know, the Germans were at the very top of the game for a few years, where they just seemed to crush everybody because they were working with solvers before anyone else was. What was it like battling with those people?
Well, first of all, I want to say that I think saying they were at the top of the game is like a ridiculous understatement. They were so dominant during that period. It was ridiculous. Like I can remember at one point, I'm pretty sure like the top 5 GPI were all German. It was just like they were so dominant. It was like Fedor, Reiner, Domnich, Vogelsang, like who else was I think Korai maybe at the time.
Oh,
Or maybe
yeah,
that was a
yeah.
little before him.
I think he might have been one of them.
Christopherson or whatever, the guy with the crazy, like, it's as if, I don't know how his parent, you know, your last name's Christopherson or something, and you name your son Christopher. It's just ridiculous. But whatever, they were like these people that, you know, like you said, they were the first to discover solvers, the first to really implement them, and it was very interesting for me to play with them. And this was actually one of the biggest motivators for me was all of these Germans. And I really, really strongly believe that like I've never spoken about a poker hand with Domnich in my life, but he is responsible for a large portion of my success in poker, because he motivated me so much. I just remember the condescension that I felt from these super nerdy German kids who saw this like big, you know, jock looking kid come in and do what they thought were stupid things that they didn't like. You know, I was just like way too aggressive, opening way too many hands, betting way too many spots, and they're just like snickering at me and, you know, always so excited. I could tell, like, basically telling me they're excited to have me at the table, you know, literally openly laughing at me handfuls of times. And I see in hindsight that this was all out of insecurity from their perspective. I really do believe, like, it was one of those things where they
All right, Dr. Phil.
They saw that I was winning. I mean, they saw that I was winning and didn't understand why and didn't think it made sense. So they wanted to. It was easiest to just like laugh at me, instead of be like, "What is he doing? That's like working."
That's something that like we've both always been really good at. Is like people might say someone sucks, but they win, and it's like, well, instead of just saying they suck, like, what are they doing that's good?
Yeah,
You've always been great at that.
Because poker is such an interesting game in that sense, because if you, and this is something that, like, I think to go back to how I learned how to play, I think that this is actually a big part of why that was so apparently clear to me, that like there was no answer in terms of the right way to play, is when I was dealing these hands, like 9 hands face up, one of the things that I was doing was like, I guess I kind of like made my own solver in a way where I would get to like a turn spot and I would look at what I thought their range would do to a certain bet. So I'd say, like, if I bet 2/3 pot, they'll fold these hands and call with these hands. My equity versus that range with this hand is X. And then I'd see, like, what is that equity if I bet half pot? Like, obviously I make more, but if I expand their calling range enough, like, I make more money from the hands that call with the 2/3 pot. But if I expand the calling range enough and bet half pot, maybe I net more overall with the average equity hand versus range. And this was one of the ways that I was very curious in terms of like, how does this affect how the rest of the hand plays out? So trying to like calculate, obviously this is a very crude method of doing it, but like calculate the EV based on my assumption of what they were doing. And I saw in those moments that, like, when you change these inputs, the answer changes. Your response is directly related to their response. So all that mattered was what they do. It didn't really matter. Like, what you do should be determined by what they do, not the other way around. And I think, like, seeing that at such an early age made it so that anyone saying like, this is a call or this is a fold, or it's like, what does that even mean? What do you mean? Like, against who? Like, to me, it was always so opponent dependent, because I wanted it to be a sport. I think I really wanted it to be like football, or wanted it to be like hockey, where it's like, ooh, this guy's weak turning to, like, he's a defender, but when he opens to turn to his right, he's slower than to his left. So I'm always going to attack his left side, or his right side, or whatever, like finding these weaknesses in people and going after them. Like, that's what I wanted poker to be.
Exploiting. I mean, it kind of is.
It is. No, I truly think it is. I think there's no question about that. But it's something that,
play
like,
the exploitative style as opposed to the solver one.
Exactly. And the difficulty that I think many people have with using a strategy like that is that you open yourself up to making mistakes and being very, very wrong at sometimes. And that's uncomfortable. And when you're playing for a living and, the money matters to you, and maybe you have someone who's really critical of your game and thinks of the game in a more robotic way. It's a lot easier to just say like, well, I'm not going to take it upon myself to create a strategy here. I'm just going to do what this thing says, because I know that that's an authority figure basically. And they're telling me what to do. And I'm going to listen to that because I know I'll be forgiven if I do what it's told, what it told me.
It's justifiable, right? Like you can go to a backer,
exactly,
because a lot of these people like have a backer who's going to ask some solver nerd if this is good. And the guy's gonna be like, no, solver does this.
Yeah, and then they're gonna be like, "You don't play the next tournament. Sorry, bro. Like you're out of here."
Maybe that's why it worked when I was like buying big pieces of you. Is because you busted. I'd be like, I mean, I get it.
Yeah, I was about. That's what I was about to get into. Is I think that's why. I mean, part of me believes in like cosmic, like plans basically, and I kind of feel like that's part of why we met, because you were the perfect person.
Yeah.
To help me, like, not only like quell that self-doubt that naturally comes from playing this strategy, and have someone who's like established and successful be like, no, that's okay to think that way. Like you're onto something here, kind of like but also someone to like help refine that thought process and be like, yeah, but one of the things I can so vividly remember is like the should. You were the probably the first person to take should out of my vocabulary with poker, because I would get very frustrated. It helped me like psychologically as well, because I would get frustrated. It's like I keep running these bluffs and like, well, they should fold this because like blah blah blah. And it's like, yeah, but you just raised every hand for like an hour and a half. I don't care what they should do. They're not gonna fold anything to you. and I'd be like, yeah, but they should. And it's like, no, get rid of this should and
what will they do?
Yeah,
yes.
Exactly. And that was such an unlock for me. And it was one of the things that I think separates like people who play in a solver method versus people who play a little bit more exploitatively, is like, I'm not going to play a strategy that's predicated on my understanding of what someone else should be doing. I'm going to try to manipulate my strategy in a way that, best profits from what they are doing, not what they should do. And the elimination of the word should was really powerful in that sense, both like from a peace of mind standpoint and from like a performance standpoint.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so you've won. Let me check here. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to count. You've won a lot of shit. What was your favorite? See, this is easy for me. I'm surprised
really?
You have to think. Yeah.
What is it for you?
My first bracelet win, the 5K PLO. Nothing felt like that. But it was also like different because like the fans were right there in like these bandstands, and like the turn came and I had like 95% equity and my friends all rushed in and I was like, wait. And then I got like lifted up. It was like the first one of my friends to like win a bracelet. Yeah. And like, I get goosebumps just thinking about it. And the bracelet's like right there off the screen. But, it's not even close.
It's harder for me to identify a tournament. I think I'd have to say that it was 5 Diamond.
Okay.
And probably the year that I got second, actually, not the year that I won. Because when I won it, I had already done a lot of other things since that. But that first year, like
the first big score.
I was, the 2600 that I'm talking about is definitely up there for me. It's like one of the top 3 for sure, because that's the only tournament that made me cry. But it was like, it was like, that was so powerful because it was just a form of validation for like what I had been working towards. And also like financially, it changed my situation so much. But then the 5 Diamond was one where that felt like, at the time, it's like, I feel like often when you're playing some of these things, or when I like almost made it more grand than it really was. Like I felt like I was like, main event champion, biggest tournament ever. Like that's what it felt like to me at the time. And that was such an incredible experience. But then and I swear I'm not just trying to like list off things that I won, but the 250K was
I can
for
get
my
you a
first
list if you'd
bracelet.
like.
The 250K for my first bracelet was another one of the most powerful ones, because it was like one of the biggest tournaments that they had ever run, and like my first, like, that's like it was just like
I can
a
see
little bit more monumental. I don't know.
I can see why that wouldn't be number one though, because it took you like so long to win a bracelet that you had won a lot of stuff before that.
Yeah, I didn't luckbox one right away in the game I barely know, like PLO.
I was grinding PLO. I was very confident.
I know.
I played excellent.
That was a bad joke. I could have done better than that.
Yeah, that was below your average for sure.
My bad.
All right, I got like a few rapid fire ones for you.
Wait, hold on. Before you start this, I do want to go back to that question, because what I was trying to set up was that, to me, the year that I like the GPI Player of the Year award, that overtook all of them. And I think a lot of that is because my approach, my like belief is that anyone can win a tournament. Well, it's not just my belief. Everyone knows this. Anyone can win a tournament, but prolonged success is very hard. And that's like, longevity is the proof of performance in poker. You can't say I played great because you won. And for me, that was like the moment where I was like, okay, I know that I had a great year. Like, I've been playing great. This is like proof. And it's not necessarily proof, because someone who's not playing great can win it. But that was one of the most validating moments, and was really, really special to me.
That makes sense. Sorry to cut you off there. I just kind of checked out after you were listing the wins.
I don't blame you. There's some, I mean, it gets tiring. I understand.
All right. A couple of rapid fire. You ready?
Yeah.
Hero call or big bluff?
Hero call.
Playing high rollers or playing big fields?
That's really hard.
You can expand on them. They're just
okay,
not 10-minute answers. Do you want to expand?
Yeah.
Let's expand on hero call or on hero call.
Hero call is just, there's something about, first of all, I think it's less likely, or it happens less often that I hero call correctly than I get bluffs through. Yes. And also it's just a lot of, there's that feeling. I don't know. It's hard to explain, the feeling of like, you tried to like trick me and I didn't let you. Whereas like sometimes you bluff and it's just like, they just don't have anything, or like it's just, they're just too tight or whatever. Like it feels a little bit less, it doesn't take as much discernment in terms of figuring out what their hand is to bluff someone as it does to call them with nothing. Speaking of, I had a 7 high hero call heads up in that for the second year I won that 2650. That was one of my proudest hands ever. Yeah, wow. I know.
Sounds pretty sweet.
It was against Blair Hinkle. I promise you, he remembers that hand.
Can you rapid fire it?
It was just like I had like 7-3 on. I think it was like 6-6-4-4. Where it was like check call flop, check turn, and then like the river was like a deuce, and he bet big, and I was just like, this guy has like deuce 3 or something. It was a heads up. It was heads up in the tournament. And it was like limp check. It wasn't like a huge pot, but I just remember being so confident that he was bluffing, and I was like, well, maybe he's bluffing with 8 high, but I don't think that he, I can't remember the hand specifically to reverse engineer my thought process, but it was one of those where I called with 7 high, and it was like one of the most sure I've ever been that I was going to get the pot somehow.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that was a fun one. But anyway, so not so rapid fire. The high roller versus big fields.
And
it's like
big field mains, I think. I think that goes without saying for us, but like big field main events, it doesn't have to be the main event, but like, 5Ks with 2,000 people, shit like that.
Yeah, that to me, going deep in one of those big fields is more fun than going deep in a high roller, but high rollers are more fun on average.
Okay, cool. Cash games versus tournaments. Yeah, I mean, tournaments are just so much more dynamic. Like the stack size,
dynamic,
the stage shifts. The cash games is like, all right, I have 200 plus big blinds. I'm going to sit here and figure out a good strategy, and it doesn't really shift.
And just keep doing it over and over. Whereas and also emotionally, it's so much easier to play a cash game than a tournament. You don't have to go from having 100 big blinds to 10 big blinds to 50 big blinds to 3 big blinds. That those swings that you have to handle. And the thing for me that's most significant in terms of the difference is that there isn't a winner in a cash game. You win money, but there's no winner for the day. And to me, I always wanted there to be a winner. I wanted to win, like, so that competition is what I love.
Yeah, I always said that like winning 100K in a tournament feels so much better than like in winning first place than winning 100K in a cash game. And it's not even close.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, emotions in poker: staying stoic versus showing emotions.
I'd say somewhere in between. You can't let your, I staying stoic generally, of course, that's the best way in general. But there are times for a little bit of emotion. I guess I don't really show it myself because, well, that's another explanation, but stoic is my answer.
Yeah. This next one I've written down, I'm not really sure what I was thinking, but I'm going to read it anyway. Luck versus skill in poker.
Maybe being lucky is a skill. I'll answer a stupid question with a weird answer.
Thank you. I appreciate that. All right. Back to some normalcy. Talk to us a little bit about variance in tournament poker. Like anyone who's played 10, 20, 30 tournaments knows that there is a considerable amount of variance.
Yeah. And the funny thing is that the longer you play tournaments, the more you realize, I think, that the losses are inevitable and whatever, but the wins are so sweet that it's like, to me, the way I like to think about it is like every time I bust, every time I, get unlucky or whatever, I'm just like paying my dues towards the time when it does go well. And the variance is massive. And I know, like, but if you play enough, specifically if you're playing in not like multiple, if you play 5 tournaments a year and every single one has 2,000 people, you could definitely go a lifetime without ever winning a tournament. Like, there's no doubt about that. But if you're playing enough volume and regularly and playing at the top of your game, you'll have that moment. And all of the bad beats are offset. Like I don't remember many bad beats that I've had, but I remember like so many of my wins. And I think that that's something that.
Are you sure? Because Matt Damon would say it's exactly the opposite.
Yeah, that's because Matt Damon isn't a poker player, probably. Or maybe he just has a bad mindset. I don't know.
If you can get that Rounders reference, I was going to be so disappointed.
No, I got it. No, he's also a cash game player. So that's probably true for cash game. If you play cash games, like the winning sessions, but when you lose like 20% of your roll in a night, like you definitely, I'd imagine you remember that. But most cash game sessions, maybe you're up 1 or 2% of your worth or something like that. If you have a good day, but then when you lose, it's like painful. So I think that's one of the things that I also love about tournaments is that your loss is capped, going in. It's like, I'm probably going to lose this 50K or whatever it is.
Yeah. All right. This is one of my favorite questions on the list, and we're getting close to the end. Going to war with me at the table. Do you recall any fun hands?
Yeah, a lot of them. The most recent one that I remember is when you tried your best to distribute our money to the rest of the tournament field in the Choctaw main event that you won. You won that, right? I think.
Did you contradict yourself?
How?
How would I redistribute our chips?
Sklansky bucks.
Sklansky bucks.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Not our actual chips.
For those of you, most people watching this, I'm sure don't know. There's like 24, 30 left. And I 3-bet pocket tens and Foxen 4-bet piles ace queen for like 45, 50 big blinds each. And I just call and we win a big flip and Foxen's out of the tournament. I also had the wonderful good luck of busting his wife in 5th place or 4th place in the event and won it for my first and only WPT champion or win. Yeah, that was a wonderful one. Thank you for bringing that one up.
Yeah, that one I remember definitely because it was. I think I got 19th, so I think it was even deeper than you thought. And like at this point, it was like 3 tables left. My wife is still in the tournament. She has a good stack. I have a stack that's like 1.7 average or something like that. Like I think average is around 30 big blinds, give or take. You had a good stack. I was like, wow, this could be a really cool moment. Imagine the three of us make a WPT final table together. Like that'd be so much fun.
Foxen,
and
it was a really
and
cool
then
moment.
I can't and then I can't help myself before bet jam once chance 3-bets my under the gun open because I'm like, oh,
I was just trying to ensure,
his range is so tight.
I was trying to ensure that one of us won the event.
Yeah, you did that for sure.
Yeah.
And I think whoever won that flip was a big favorite to win the tournament.
That's the best you got?
But yeah, no.
That's the most
that was
needly.
just
Okay.
and the most recent. That's what I was saying. It's the most recent one that really sticks out in my head.
Okay.
Maybe you have more that I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't know. I've stacked.
I tend to remember pots that I lose a little bit more than pots that I win. So in that sense, I am like Matt Damon.
Yeah, there you go.
But as far so you would probably remember a lot more hands than me that we battled. The other one I remember in Australia, and I can't even remember the hand. I think it was in like a 1600 or 2K6 max or something like that. I can remember that we were sitting in the corner of the side room that like, it wasn't the main room where the tournaments are held. It was like, they had that secondary room. You might've won the tournament. Did you? Wow. Is that a fucking theme here? If you win a big that's actually hilarious. I do remember you won that tournament. That's so funny. Wow. Maybe we can manipulate this somehow.
I ran, for what it's worth, I ran so good against you in all ins and everything. Like the first 5 years we played against each other. In the last 3 years, you've been getting me for sure.
Yeah. No, I remember like it being like impossible to win a pot against you for a while, and it was not for lack of trying. It was
the hand that you were about to
ever folded.
Finish telling the hand you were bringing up.
So that's the thing. I hope you can remember it better than I can, because I just remember it was like, I think Chrissy was actually standing at the table. She was like playing at a table nearby and was watching and was like, what the fuck are you guys doing?
Yeah, last hand before break, I 3-bet like the king queen o, and you cold 4-bet the ace 10-0. And I go in the tank. We go on break. Chrissy walks over, and I pile. And you tank for like 65, 70 big blinds. And you tank for a while and end up calling ace 10-0, which happens to be best. And I think I made like a full house or something. I think it was like king queen, just flopped.
Yeah, I think I was just dead. Yeah. Like I remember that. And being like, fuck yeah, I made a sick call, and then we're just like, oh,
just immediately taken away from me. And you're right, Chrissy was like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah. I just remember her reaction so vividly, being like, what are you guys doing? Like, aren't you guys friends? Like, what the hell is happening?
Yes, we went to Thailand afterwards together.
Yeah, that was a great trip. That was a lot of fun.
Wow, that was a while ago, because that was,
it's crazy how long
6.5 years ago, because it was Emily's. Like I remember what birthday it was of hers.
Yeah, wow.
You notice how
that was a long time.
How I didn't age my wife there.
Yeah, good job. That's something you're a good husband.
Felt very sharp. All right, tell me about your experience playing Tritons. Tritons are massive, great venues. Talk about it.
Yeah, I feel like Tritons are exactly what I would always imagine high stakes poker to be like. They have this incredibly prestigious feel to them. They're incredibly well run, and it's a ton of the best players in the world, a ton of super rich people who love poker, and they just kind of thought of everything at them, honestly. And that's been some of my most fun poker experiences, and I've been fortunate enough to do pretty well in them. And like, that's obviously, that probably skews my perception of the series a little bit, but it's just they're tough, and that's always, like, to me, it's like I love playing against the best players that are available. Like that's what it's all about for me. Like that's really what I want. I want to play with and beat the people who are the best. Like that's what's fun about poker. So to me, they're just like the epitome of high stakes poker, and it's like I'm very grateful that we're where we are in this time period when they're running, because I don't know if they'll last forever, and I know there hasn't been anything like this before. So it's very cool, and I feel very lucky to get to play them.
Nice. You touched on her recently, but poker's given you a lot, including a wonderful wife. Tell us a little bit about Kristen Foxen.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can't say enough. I'm the lucky, not just because I, win big all ins at deep in final tables, but I'm definitely the luckiest person. Maybe on earth. It feels like that to me. I can't say enough, and I feel like it might sound like cheesy or whatever, but like she's so much of the reason why I'm able to perform well and why I've improved as a person, as a player, physically, emotionally, psychologically. Like I can't overstate how important she's been to my development as like both, as I said, as a person and as a player. And yeah, she's a really, really, really special person. And I say that as unbiased as I possibly can be. Like I'm not the only one who says that. I know that a lot of people get glimpses into it. They don't get to see what I do, but like, yeah, I couldn't be more grateful. Just like incredibly hardworking, incredibly compassionate and smart and funny, loving, like everything. If I bricked every tournament for the rest of my life, I would still consider myself the luckiest person. Wow. I know I knew I was going to sound super cheesy saying that, but it's true. It really is. It really is.
Nice. I'll have that made into a Valentine's Day card for you. All right. And last but not least, what are your future goals in poker?
Well, one of my goals is, so like I said before, to me, longevity has always been everything. And being at the top of poker for a month, a year is doable for many people. But to stay there for a decade or even longer and perform at the highest level, like to me, that's the ultimate proofs in the pudding of your performance, because you can't chalk things up to luck when they keep happening year after year after year. And it's something that like that constant work is something that I love about poker, but I do have aspirations outside of poker in terms of creating a family and maybe taking some time away from grinding every tournament. So, which brings me to like something that gives me a great amount of fulfillment within poker, which is teaching other people to give them the ability to get this experience that I've had in poker and to have it change their lives for the better, make them into a better person. I think poker is the ultimate battlefield and the ultimate like learning ground for life. You have to face your most difficult like emotional hurdles and all of your incongruities in terms of your worldview or your understanding of people and psychology. Like it tests you in so many ways. That makes it just such an amazing tool. And the more you know about the game from like a technical perspective, the greater the lessons it teaches you. And so from that perspective, like I love coaching other people. I love one-on-one coaching. I like group coaching. Honestly, I just like talking about the game. And I tend to go on like maybe philosophical musings when I'm talking about poker, because I truly believe they're very strongly intertwined. And that's part of why I do have a passion for teaching people, because I really want to allow or to help enable others to access the level of personal growth that poker can give you that I have, and the level of like enjoyment that I have. So something like, our newest project, the Inner Circle, is really cool in that sense, because, most coaching and most sites is kind of impersonal, where you buy a video, you watch a course or something like that. And those are great ways to learn, but having this ability to interact with people on a more personal level and get to know them and have a group that I'm like rooting for them, I get to sweat them and, encourage them when they're doing well, maybe give them a little tip when they're deep in a tournament type of thing. And like, just be there for people in that perspective and watch them grow. It's like, it really is super, super fulfilling. And I can't overstate that. It's like, it's more fulfilling than winning a tournament.
Yeah. I mean, one of my most fulfilling moments in poker ever was ironically after your 5 diamond second place. We're in high limit at Aria. And I remember like coming up to you and like, it took me courage to actually come and tell you this, but like, remember when I told you like how proud I was?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like that feeling that you get when your students have success is just amazing.
Yeah, yeah, it's really cool. It's like it's not only is it like an amazingly fulfilling experience, but it's also extremely validating in the sense that like, okay, maybe I lucked my way into winning, or maybe, but like I when you have repeated students do well, it's like, all right, well, this is like, I know I'm giving them some good stuff,
Yeah.
and I think that, I can't help myself but the philosophical musings, but I think that like the purpose of everyone is like, or one of my primary purposes is to like be in service to others, whether that's in, I'm not talking about going out and like building people houses and stuff like that, but just to try to like help people improve it. It's one of the most fulfilling things that I think you can do as a human, and I think it's some of our purpose like on earth is to help other people around us and build people up. So to do that from the perspective of coaching in a game that brings so many people so much joy and many people lots of financial success, is really cool. And before anyone says like, well, what about all the people that lose? That's one of the most amazing things to me about poker, is that most of the people that lose can afford to do so. And most of the people that win, like it's not, there are exceptions, but for the most part, the lives that poker changes are for the better, because most people who are playing poker can afford to lose the money that they're losing. But those handful of people that have that big score and go on to, do whatever, buy a house, start a business, feed their family, like that's pretty awesome. It's almost like a wealth redistribution tool, honestly.
Yeah, I never thought of it that way. That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, if y'all want to learn more about, Foxen's teachings and philosophical ramblings, check us out at Chip Leader Coaching. We'll leave a link in the description below. But thanks so much for taking the time, brother, letting everyone kind of see you the way that I'm fortunate enough to.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I feel like I almost cried a few times during this podcast somehow. So got something out of it.
Much love, buddy.
Really cool.
Thanks again.